Hey guys, how are you doing today on a Tuesday afternoon? No, it is not Thursday. It is Tuesday. And like I said last Tuesday when we did our very first one of these, we're doing Pam's Picks on Tuesday. And it's a lot of fun. So I'm so glad you're joining us today. I am Pam Barnhill. And I am a homeschooling mom of 3 kids. I have 3 homeschooling podcasts. We have the Homeschool Solutions Show, which is an audio blog of the best homeschool content on the web. We have the Homeschool Snapshots podcast, which is interviews with homeschoolers, homeschooling moms mostly, homeschooling dads occasionally, and every once in a while a homeschooling child, teen. And then we also have the Your Morning Basket podcast, which I just put together and sent out a very fun email with my top 3 favorite Your Morning Basket podcasts of all time. So check your email inbox if you're wondering which ones are Pam's favorite podcasts, because I think it's totally okay to have favorite podcasts as a podcaster, even if you're not allowed to have favorite kids as a mother. So there you go. Speaking of favorites, we are here today talking about Pam's pick for math, which is MathUSee. And so we're going to get into that in just a minute. And I just want to say, Dawn Garrett is back. Whoop, whoop. Yay. I'm so happy about that. Now, I do want to give some props to Tina, who did a fabulous job last week when Dawn was gone. She helped in our groups on Facebook, she helped in our forums on the website, and she helped me in my live videos, and she did a wonderful job. She didn't help me with the email inbox, which is Dawn's other job. And so, even though she was wonderful at what she did, this is why I miss Dawn so much. So Dawn's back. Yay. Pam's a happier girl. All right. So let's dig into MathUSee, which is my pick for math. Now, I'm going to tell you that I had aspirations of being a mathier mom than what I am. So when I started this homeschool journey, it was very important to me that my kids have an understanding of math. Tina, you're not allowed to tell people that I drove you crazy last week. That my kids have an understanding of math, because I always just followed the algorithm. That was all I did, because I didn't have an understanding of math. And you know, it's so funny now as I'm teaching my kids, well, I'm kind of teaching my kids math. We're going to talk more about that in just a minute. But I have such a better understanding of math now. I can see the things, like the way things work, and it's starting to, well, it's bad because I'm well into my 40s. It's starting to make sense to me. So I've always gotten by doing the algorithm, and I really wanted more than that for my kids. I will tell you, I still have one who honestly doesn't completely get it all the time. So now you know which one it is. She struggles still. And I think for her, like for me, there's going to come a point where she reaches a point of maturity where it does start to make more sense. And so this goes back to, I don't think you have to be able to learn everything that you have to learn by the time you're 18. You know, if you're 25 or 35 or 45, before that whole equivalent fraction idea or what you are actually doing in trigonometry class starts to make sense to you, I don't think it's the end of the world, as long as you can function mathematically. So I've enjoyed letting things unfold as I've gotten older and beginning to see some of these things. It just makes more sense. Seriously, I read an article about trigonometry in the Old Schoolhouse magazine probably about 10 years ago, and I was like, wow, that's what I was doing in trigonometry class for a whole semester. I never knew, and it made ever so much more sense. So it's okay if math unfolds for people later. Amy Sloan, yes, that is perfect. We talk a lot about emerging readers, but we don't really talk about emerging mathematicians. I love that. I absolutely love that. And it was like the analogy, Lena Sutherland, Dawn, will you find the post please, had a great post today that she was talking about in her sibling rivalry series that she's doing on her blog. But the analogy she used was about the fact that when you struggle with math, you never say, oh, my kid, I can't even remember what it was. Lena, type it in there. But, it was like, you never say, oh, my child hasn't learned enough math, you never don't say my child hasn't learned enough math yet. Anyway, I totally messed that up, but it's a really good post. Dawn's going to drop the link. Go read it. You'll see exactly what I mean, even though the math part was an analogy for something else. We're always learning this stuff. Okay, I'm getting myself into a deep hole here, so I'm just going to go ahead and talk about MathUSee. So anyway, I had this aspirations to be the kind of mom that helped my kids understand math. So these were pretty lofty goals for me, considering I was just learning a lot of this stuff myself. And so I started out with Singapore, and I started out with Miquan, and I started out with what Pam would term as some of the more touchy-feely math programs, because I was bound to determine my kids were going to have a deeper understanding and not do the algorithm, not really being aware of the fact that they might not have that deep understanding, and even if they eventually get there, I might not be the person who's going to lead them there. So anyway, that's what we started out as. And I think we got like halfway through first grade, and I realized, yeah, this isn't working how I planned out. It wasn't clicking, and it really didn't help that my oldest is a lot like me. Like, my boys can take a word problem and just do it in their head, and if they ever talk out loud, I'm like, how are you doing that? But they're manipulating the numbers. They're breaking the numbers apart. They're like adding things to the numbers to make it easy to do the problem in their head. If they're like making it go up to 30 and taking 3 away here, and they're just doing crazy stuff. I didn't teach them how to do that. They just do it naturally. But Olivia was very much like me, and so it wasn't clicking. So I can remember standing in the Greenville GHC years ago, just attending as an attendee, talking to Andrew Pudewa, and saying, I wish that I had somebody to do for math what you do for writing. And he pointed me to Steve Demme. He said, you need to go see Steve Demme at MathUSee. And that totally changed our lives. And it's funny, I was on Andrew's podcast last November, and I told him, I said, you're totally responsible for the math program in my house, which he had a really good laugh over. So I don't know if that part made the podcast or if we were just talking about it off air. But I think it did. But he thought that was really funny that, so Steve needs to send him a kickback because we're still using MathUSee levels later. So what we love about MathUSee. So one of the things we really love about MathUSee is it comes with DVDs. And so I really enjoy this fact. We can watch the DVDs together, and I can learn to help the kid by watching the DVD. And in the DVD, Mr. Demme is teaching to children. And so my kids can watch the DVD as well. And so that's one of the things I really love about it. And I also wanted my kids to learn math from somebody who actually has a passion for math. And Steve Demme does. And that comes across on the DVDs as well. And if you have never met Mr. Demme in person, he is just the sweetest soul. A couple years ago, I was at the convention, and I mentioned to him that John was having a birthday. And I asked him, will you please say happy birthday to my son and let me videotape it and send it back to him at home, because I'm here at the homeschool convention missing his birthday. He sang happy birthday to John on video so I could send it to him. And I've heard stories of him doing neat things like that more than once. So anyway, we love, love, love the fact that it comes with videos. The next thing that we love are the little manipulatives. Now, okay, I say we love, Mama loves them. I have a couple of boys that have reached a point where they're like, they don't like working with the manipulatives. Olivia still pulls them out all the time. I don't know if they just think they're uncool, but they have nifty names, like this is Chocolate. Okay, because it's 8 and it's chocolate. This is awesome. And this is 9, and 9 wants to be 10. So he goes around sucking from the other unit bar, or from the other bars, so he can be 10. And this is one thing that will drive you crazy about the program. When your kid is doing subtraction and he's subtracting 9s, all you'll hear all day is... So just to let you know. And they do it for 8s too, except they go... So we like the manipulatives to a point, and then the boys kind of get tired of them. But you can look at, you can always pull them back out and use them to look at a new concept. So there is that. The next thing I loved about MathUSee was the fact that my math tutor loves MathUSee. So that's really cool. So when Olivia hit long division, I hired a math tutor. And I did this because we had watched the video. It was making my head hurt. She kept asking me, can you explain long division again? And I'm like, okay, I'm going to try. And the only recourse I had was to explain it again slower in the exact same way. And when you reach that point, you realize that you might not be the best math teacher for your child. And so we found Miss Debbie, who is a wonderful math teacher. She's graduated her own kids, and she teaches a lot of math here in our community. She's a homeschool mom from way back when, and she loves MathUSee, and that's what she likes. She likes for us to use. And so it worked really well to make that change. And so Olivia started seeing her, and then I let John start seeing her too, even though he doesn't, quote unquote, need a math tutor. I really like the idea of, once again, him having math interactions with someone who really enjoys math, can talk about it in a lot of different ways, and can have that interaction with him. So right now I'm still teaching Thomas myself, but I imagine at some point he will move to Miss Debbie as well. And she really likes the MathUSee program. So MathUSee is mastery. It's not spiral. And the difference is, with MathUSee, you master one concept before you move on to the next. And I really like this because I know where the problem is. Like, if the child is having a problem, I know exactly where the problem is in the mathematics. It's the thing that they're not mastering, as opposed to they're working on a number of different concepts and you can't figure out where the issue might be. It's also really straightforward. You learn a new concept, you watch the DVD, and you sit down and you do the A page. So there are 6 practice pages that comes in each unit, plus one enrichment page, which Miss Debbie's really great about making the kids do all the enrichment pages. She does them with them. I'm not as good about making Thomas do all of his, and I'm going to have to get better at that. Or maybe I'll just send him to Miss Debbie and let her do all of his enrichment pages with him when we finish his book in a couple of weeks. But so you have A through A, B, C, D, E, F. You have A through F, and they do the A page. And if my kids get 100% on the A page, they do really well on it, and they understand the concept, I do not make them do the B page or the C page. I let them move on to the first review page. Now, we always do the review pages. I have had some people tell me that they feel like MathUSee does not have enough review. I think if you are not doing, so I think probably what's going on here is people are doing like A and B and C, and they're like, oh, my kid has this, let's move on to the next chapter. You don't skip D, E, and F, okay? You do D, E, and F all the time, because that is where your review is. That is where it goes back and picks up really old concepts. So if you're going to skip something, skip B and C, but don't skip D, E, and F. Do those pages, because that's where you go back. And let me see if I can find one in here. Okay, so, and this is going to be backwards, and I apologize. They have these little review boxes. So this will go back. This is area of a triangle. So this was probably something she learned in the last book. And it'll reintroduce that concept and show them how to work it again. And then once they've done that, that'll be in the next few units. There will be those kinds of problems there, so they can review that concept. And it's the same thing with like multiple digit multiplication or adding money or whatever the concept is. It's reviewed, and you can see that's on the back of a D page right there. So you definitely want to do that. But if it's something, and the other thing I love about it is you get to the last few chapters and it's really easy stuff. So you kind of end the book on a nice easy note. So it'll be something like telling time to the hour, or money, or making a graph, or something like that for the last few chapters. And we really like that, because you kind of end it easy at the end. So let me see what else. Let's see. I went over all of the pieces. There is also the teacher's guide, and I will say sometimes I forget to refer to my teacher's guide, but if you ever get stuck with anything, there are additional teaching tips within the text of your teacher's guide. So be sure to look at that. And there is also mental math in your teacher's guide. They have tucked the mental math into the teacher's guide. So if you're, I'm trying to find some. Yep. So like right here, there is a mental math section in your teacher's guide. So can I kind of walk you through a lesson? Yes, and thank you, Dawn, for dropping the link for parent resources. I was going to ask you to do that. Okay, so walking you through a lesson. So on day 1 of a lesson, which might or might not be Monday, okay, it just depends on how long it took the child to get through the last lesson, or whatever the case may be. On day 1, we would watch the video. And then I would sit, and the video segments are usually about 5 to 10 minutes long, just depending. And I would sit with the child after the video was over, and I would work through the problems, the first couple of problems with the child. Now, if I have to work through the entire A sheet with the child, they are doing the B sheet the next day. Okay? So, that's just the way it is. But if I only have to do the first 1 or 2, and then they can take the sheet and run with it, then we'll move along. And I have to say, I imagine that it's probably only about 15 to 20% of the time, and usually only the boys, that they get to like skip both the B and the C sheet. A lot of times it would be, they would have to do at least the B, or a lot of times poor Olivia has to do all of them. So we would do the sheet together, or they would complete the sheet on their own, and then I check it right then. Like I have them, for the longest time we tore the pages out of the book. Once we started seeing the math tutor, then we started leaving the books intact, which is what we do now, just because it's easier for them to take the entire book to the math tutor. They leave the book out, or they leave the paper out, and before I release them for the day, I look over their math, circle anything that they got wrong, and have them do it over. And then we talk about, was this just, a dumb mistake? Meaning I didn't like really not know how to do the problem. I just made a mistake, or was this something that you need more help on? Do I need to help you with this one? And I help as much as I can, but you can see in the Epsilon book, we write notes for the math tutor. I do still try to help them when I can, but sometimes I write notes for the math tutor, especially if my help is confusing them more than it's actually helping them. You can see we have another little help up here. So I try to help them to do it. And yeah, if you let the grading pile up, it gets to be too much. And if you don't grade it that day, how do you know what they're supposed to do the next day? If you don't grade it right then, how do you know that they haven't absolutely mastered this and blown it away and they can move on to the next thing, or they need to sit and have more practice on it? You have no idea. So do the grading and then don't let them leave until they fix the problem, which also makes sure that your kid's not hurrying through math. I mean, if they know they have to stay at the table until they get it absolutely right, they're going to be much more apt to do it right the first time. I'm just saying. And now as the kids get older, about 10 years old, they can actually start checking their own math problems. And so there are answers in the back of the teacher's guide. And so a lot of times I'll have them pull the teacher's guide out and check their own work and make sure they got it right. And any they didn't get right, they circle, they do again, because they have to show their work. They can't just write the correct answer. Or they ask me about. So that's something else that we can, that I can have them do as well. I don't have them do it a lot. I only have 3 kids, typically spaces out through the day. But if you have 5 or 6 kids, you can have a child check their own work, especially if it's a little bit higher math where, you know, they're not just going to be able to like erase and write down the right answer. They've got to actually sit and look through and figure out where they went wrong. Definitely have them do some of the checking and take a little bit of ownership in their mathematics education. So at the end of the day, we look at what they've done well. We see if they need any extra practice. If they need extra practice, they move on to the B page. If they did really great that page, or maybe they completed the B page that day, we can move them on to D, E, and F. And keep moving forward. Oh, Dawn, you're going to have to tell me that story. So, do they have assessments on the website? Dawn, will you look really quick and see if they have some kind of placement assessment? I bet they do. The other thing they have on the website are parent resources. And so, there are drill pages on there that you can print, and there are extra pages that you can print for extra practice. And I will tell you, there have been times that we've been working through the process of learning something new, and we've run out of math problems in the book. And so we go to the website. Long division was one of these places where we've worked every stinking long division problem on the pages in the book. We still need more practice with it. So you can go to the website and you can pull up, I believe that was Delta. So you can pull up Delta, you can pull up the lesson number, and you can build yourself an extra set of practice problems. So that's something you can do if you need extra practice problems. It also comes with a little test booklet, and I have to be honest with you, I don't use the test. I don't use the test. Now, Miss Debbie has offered to give my kids the test, and basically I use the test as an extra copy of the worksheet. So at some point, I imagine with Olivia going into 8th grade, we'll start using the test. But basically, the idea is you master it, you get, and we move on. And so we are not big test users, though I know some people do that. Tests kind of freak my kids out. And so we don't use the test. I do pull the test out if we need an extra worksheet. So if we get to the end and I'm like, oh, they really need to do some more on this, they need some extra practice, we'll pull the test out. And the test, I might misspeak here, but I really think they include things, so like whatever you've been reviewing on the D, E, and F pages of that unit will be on the test as well. So it's almost like another D, E, or F page. And then they have unit tests, like semi-review tests, like halfway through the year. They have a partial review test. And at the very end, they have an end of the year review test, which I do typically give to the kids at the end of the book. But I don't treat it like a test. I treat it like a worksheet. So, Shelley, is it Common Core based? The main part of the math program has been the same that it has always been. It has not changed, even with the advent of Common Core. My understanding is what they added with Common Core were the G pages. And so hold on a second and let me show you. These application and enrichment pages, the G pages, were what they added with Common Core. And this does, these are more, I'm sorry, somebody keeps calling me. These are more Common Core-ish than, so I'm not, you'll have to go to the website and look at the FAQ, but this was my understanding. The curriculum is the same as it's always been. It has not changed at all, but they did add these pages after the Common Core came into effect, because I do think they have some school customers that do have to align. So you can go to the MathUSee website and see if that question is addressed on the page, and you get a better answer there. My math tutor does the G pages with the kids. She likes them, but she's the one, like, I don't even touch them. I don't assign them here at the house, anything like that. She actually does them with the kids. So that's the best answer I got for you. I don't know. Let me see. I think I've answered everything. It's totally mastery based. And so you're going to work through addition first, and you're going to do all single digit addition and subtraction in alpha, and then beta is your double digit. Gamma is multiplication. Can I tell you how it compares with Saxon? Saxon is spiral based, and so you are learning bits of concepts and you're spiraling down through them and going deeper and deeper and deeper in these concepts. MathUSee is mastery based, and so you are mastering single digit addition, and then you're moving to single digit subtraction, and you're mastering it, and then you're mastering double digit, a triple, on and on, like multiple digit addition, and then multiple digit subtraction. This is like notification day on my phone. And then you move to single digit multiplication, and then multiple digit multiplication, and then you move to single digit division, and then multiple, like long division and things like that. And then you do fractions, and then you do decimals. So the only decimals my kids have seen to this point is money. And they will be moving into decimals next year. And yes, Olivia is not going into algebra next year. She is still finishing up fractions and things like that, and I'm perfectly okay with that. She's not going to be a mathy person. Math lessons for a living education. We dabbled in that last year with my youngest because I felt like he would enjoy the stories that were in there, and we went back to MathUSee. It was it's not nearly as much writing numbers, and I don't think math lessons for a living education is mastery based, but I can't be 100% sure. I think its scope and sequence is a little more varied than that. So yeah, we went back to MathUSee. We went back to the tried and true. Is what works for me going to work for you? I don't know. I mean, seriously, I am just telling you what I like about this program. I get no kickback for recommending MathUSee at all. It's just something that I like. And honestly, I had a good friend years ago. All of her kids did MathUSee, and I wouldn't listen to her, and I should have listened to her. She was so funny later after I started using it and loving it. She was like, you could tell she wanted to say, I told you so, but she wasn't doing it. I do have my kids just do 1 page a day, Jeannie, and I know everybody else doesn't do that. I don't worry about getting through it in a year. Doesn't bother me a bit. If it's a page where I feel like we could go faster, and there are some pages like that, we'll do a couple a day. But for the most part, it typically ends up being just 1, and I'm not worried about getting through it in a year. I'm really, really, really worried more about them mastering it and understanding the math. So that's what we do. I have a couple of kids who are a little bit further ahead of where they should be. And then I have the one who's behind, but that's okay because she's still going to finish Algebra 1 or Algebra 2 by the time she graduates. And she really probably won't need any higher math than that. And if she does, then she's just going to have to get motivated to learn it. And so there you go. We're not in a race here. I will tell you, I took calculus in high school, and it was probably just the biggest waste of my time ever because I made B's in it and I still have no idea what calculus was about. So there you go. So yeah, we're more about mastery. Now, when we get to high school and we have to do something for a credit, then we'll have to take a look at things and I'll have to look at them and say, okay, if you got to have 4 math credits for high school and you've got 4 years to do that in, well, if you're not finished with the book by the end of the year, then you're going to have to work a little extra in the summer. So there you go. All right, so Tiffany's saying her oldest did a page a day in algebra and finished right at the end of the full year. And don't forget, we don't do every page. If they've got it, we don't belabor it. But then again, if they need the extra help, we'll do extra pages. So it's really more about the mastery. Do I supplement with other math things? So my first 2 really needed extra drill on the math facts. And so we tried extra math for a while. That absolutely drove them crazy. I know that's Misty Winkler's favorite supplement. We used the drill program that is on the MathUSee website. That one became our favorite thing. And so what I would do is, let's say they were learning the 9 subtraction facts. So 17 minus 9, 16 minus 9, 14 minus 9, those kinds of things. So I would pull up that lesson on the drill thing and on the little drill program on the website, and you can isolate just that lesson. So they're only going to get those facts. And then I would have them do the lesson, do the little drill thing. And I would make them drill that particular set until they could do it in like under a minute with 100% accuracy. And so they would work on it sometimes a couple of weeks, drilling just that set. So every day on their spiral notebook list, they were doing a MathUSee page, and then they were also drilling that particular set of facts. And we did that with addition, subtraction, and multiplication. And then it got to where they just really didn't need it quite as much. They didn't need to do that. My littlest guy, so far, I have not had to drill him on everything. He's got it fairly quickly. Now, he is going to be moving, I think he's got 4 or 5 lessons left in his beta book. So we'll finish those up in July when we start back with school again. And he's going to be moving into multiplication. And I have a feeling he's going to spend some time doing multiplication drill. So we use the little drill app on their site. Once they've done that particular set of facts, they move on to the next set of facts. And probably about every 3rd or 4th week, I would have them do a review set where I go in and I select multiple sets and for a couple of weeks have them work on just the review set, and then they have to be able to do that in a minute or less with 100% accuracy. So that was kind of how we did it. But there's all kinds of apps and computer programs and things you can get that are free to drill the math facts, and so we've done that as well. All right, I feel like I've been a little bit disjointed, but I do want to say, if Singapore didn't work for me because I was not mathy enough to teach it, I do bedtime math, and we do math in morning time as well, where we try to hit the more lovely side of mathematics. But Singapore might work for you. We dabbled in Saxon for a while, and it just was tedious to me, but there was like all this morning meeting stuff, and then there were these pages over here, and I felt like it was crazy and all over the place. We did Miquan for a while, which honestly, that was hippie math. I mean, seriously, that's what that was. Kate Snow is probably laughing at me right now, but that's what that was. But we finally settled into MathUSee, and it really, really works for us. Will it work for you? I don't know. There are a lot of great math programs out there, but I think it's definitely worth giving a try. And so if you're not a huge mathy mom, if you want the support of a great company, and if you want, and I've never had to use it. There is an 800 number. If your kids get stuck, you can call and somebody will talk to you. Like, my kid can't do this. Call the 800 number and somebody from MathUSee will give you ideas and will help you. Like, okay, have you tried this? Have you talked to them about this? Somebody there will help you. So, it's certainly worth a try, and it's worked for us for a number of years, and I really can't see switching. What age would you or anyone recommend starting I'm Sold? Okay. I think the one thing that I really don't care for is the Primmer set. So I tried to do the Primmer so before Alpha there's a Primmer, and this is like supposed to be their kindergarten set or something like that. Yeah, I don't know. I had done Alpha already with my other kids because John started in Alpha and I think Olivia started in Beta or something like that when we started the program. And so I was going to do Primmer with Thomas, and it just seemed a lot of Alpha repeat that was easier, and there was, So I would do Kate Snow's Preschool Math at Home and with my little kids until you reach the point where you're ready to start MathUSee in Alpha. And I started Thomas in Alpha probably about halfway through kindergarten, and we're not rushing. So if he gets stuck, we can just stop and do something else. So we don't have to, we didn't push through. We could practice some other math concept. I mean, there's math stuff everywhere. And so we could play with math or do something else. Most kids can start Alpha. It starts out pretty easy with addition, and just kind of work your way through it slowly. And supplement with the Stuart Murphy math picture books. Your library probably has a lot of them. Jennifer, there is some parent helps, some getting started helps on the website that you can go look at for that. So, supplement with some of those math readers and have fun with those kinds of things. When you get stuck, just kind of back off and do some fun mathy things, play some games, things like that. Then come back and start working through your MathUSee again. Remember, MathUSee, any math curriculum is a resource that you can use to teach math. But math is this big, long journey. It's not a series of boxes to check or lessons to complete so you can close the book at the end of the year and say we finished the book. Okay? This is mathematical teaching for your kids to help them understand and be able to function for the rest of their lives. So this is not a race. This is, get stuck, back off, do something else for a while, come back to it. And do not be afraid, especially after the summer. I'm just going to throw this one out there. If you come back and your children has forgotten a lot of their facts, do not be afraid to stop what you are doing and take the time out to go back and spend 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks shoring up those facts again. Hopefully you won't have to spend that long. Hopefully your kid can get it in 1 or 2 weeks. I had one child who shall remain nameless. It took about her 4 or 5 weeks to get back on track again. She had just forgotten all of them. But we took the time to do it, and it was probably the best thing we ever did because it really, really, really reduced her frustration with the multiple digit multiplication to go back and review all of those math facts. So remember, we're learning for a lifetime here. Okay, I think that's everything about MathUSee. If you have any other questions, drop them in the comments, and we will be happy to answer them for you. Or you can email us at info@pambarnhill.com, and we'll just answer things as best we can. So good luck finding your math curriculum. But if you want something that's mastery-based, this is my pick for math. It's always worked for us. So there you go. Hopefully we've answered a lot of questions that you might have about it. And we'll be back Thursday. So we'll be back Thursday for Facebook Live. I still have no idea what we're talking about. Something to do with homeschool planning. I do know that. And we'll be back at 2:30 Central Time. So you guys have an awesome week.